Now back to the Wisconsin Vegetable Garden Radio Show with your hosts, Joey and Holly Baird.
Holly, let's go to the IIB Organics 3-in-1 Plant Garden Hotline and bring in our next guest.
Jessica Aldridge is the founder of Adventures in Waste and is a hotshot in the recycling world. Her passion for environmental education led to creating zero waste programs and other sustainability projects for corporations, cities, and municipalities in Southern California. Welcome to the program, Jessica.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy schedule to enlighten us on some things that we thought maybe we already knew about recycling and waste management.
Yeah.
So what is Adventures in Waste? Can you explain what that is before we get started so we're all on the same page?
Yes. So Adventures in Waste is a new organization. Our website is going to be completed this year. And our board consists of an amazing array of zero waste experts from the industry. And it came about because we wanted to expand our waste knowledge beyond the industry and into the public sphere. We want to bridge the experience and knowledge of both waste professionals and the public so we can inspire action, create a level playing field from which a social and environmentally responsible, closed-loop, solution-oriented world can be built. So we're doing this through like this major online resource hub where when people have questions about waste, they don't have to go to 1,000 sites. They can go here and it can branch them off to where they need to go. We're doing storytelling, community events, and then we also have our own podcast.
Well, it's good that you're creating a hub because we've all done those internet searches about a certain topic and we go to 45 different websites and 38 of them say something different. Or you just can't find the information. At least you're creating a location in which one can find it, look at a topic, and then go to a reputable site in which you've approved in order to get the correct information.
Yes, we all need that.
That's really important. So we always hear reduce, reuse, and recycle. Are these all good methods in reducing waste? Is one better than the other? Should you use them with balance?
Yeah, actually, well, they're in order on purpose. So reduce, reuse, recycle, reduction is first. But then I also want to throw in a fourth R that I think your listeners would love, which is rot. Reduce, reuse, recycle, and rot. So we want to keep compost different from recycling because we see recycling as this more material-based thing where things are pelletized and maybe broken into something else. And there are so many R's out there that can fall within these. There's my favorites are like rethink and refuse, but that's still, for me, a part of reduce. So we got to reduce our footprint, how much we're actually creating in the first place, so that when we have to create something else, we're reusing it, and at the very end, we're recycling it. But I also want to point out, I went to this very interesting discussion the other day. We're trying to restore our river here in Los Angeles. And it was a Native communities discussion, and there was a speaker, an indigenous leader by the name of Desiree Renee Martinez from the Tongva Gabrielino tribe, and she said before you can even have these 3 R's, you have to first proactively practice recognition, respect, and responsibility. And this is not only to the indigenous people of this land, it's also to the earth of which we have the honor to live upon. And then also with reduce and reuse, it's not always available to everyone, so how you can reduce and how you can reuse, it could be based on where you live, your income, your quality of water or air, your responsibility to your family or your job or your well-being. We don't all have those same privileges as each other, so we have to give a little bit to each other too. So if we're like, you're not using a reusable water bottle, well, maybe that person doesn't have access to clean water. And so it's not always on the responsibility of the individual, but it's that we need to push for policy change. We need to have transparent corporate responsibility as well so that we can all easily reduce our consumption and reuse as much as we can and recycle what's left over.
And you make a good point. We have to be responsible and think about it because we've all seen this, that you're driving down the road and people throw trash out the window or a cigarette butt because if it's out of their car, they think it doesn't exist anymore. And it's just causing more of a problem for the next person down the line.
Yeah, there is no way. There's nothing, it doesn't go away. But then it's also, there's the concept of litter, like someone may throw it out their window and they don't think about it, they're not respecting what's going on. But then also there's upstream responsibility there too, where maybe we're throwing something away but it's that proverbial, like, throwing it out the window, we're throwing it away, but then some corporation or some manufacturer has told us, well, it's recyclable, but then it's actually not. So we're in this weird way littering in a way that we didn't even know we were.
And then you use the word, the other R of rot, or as we use it as compost. You know, I've been to people's homes, and maybe you have too, Holly, you've done that, where people throw a banana peel away or scraps from a potato. And I say something like, well, I don't garden, I don't need to compost. It will compost in the landfill. And we know that if compost occurred in the landfills wouldn't be filling up because a lot of the stuff that goes to the landfill is compostable material.
Yes, actually almost 40% of what is in a landfill is made of organics material, so plant-based material, and 22% is actually food. And when this material gets into the landfill, it is nationwide, it's the third largest source of anthropogenic methane gas. So it's a greenhouse gas emission. In the state of California where I am, it's the second largest source of anthropogenic methane gas. And nothing breaks down in a landfill. It is a tomb. It's meant to keep stuff solid. And when it does start to break down, it's slowly breaking down. It's releasing this methane, and it's not all being captured. And so the Federal Trade Commission, the FTC, has regulations that says if a product comes out and says on the label, it's beneficial to the landfill, or it will break down in the landfill, that's actually a legal terminology. They cannot say that.
Wow, that's definitely interesting. So a lot of people, since we're kind of talking about large-scale waste such as landfills, a lot of people think recycling isn't as environmentally efficient as we think it is. It could be going straight to the landfill, even if we put it in the recycle bin. I guess like before China used to take our recyclables or whatnot. Is there any truth to this? Is recycling still as efficient? I think it was started to boom in the 90s. Are we still as efficient
is
as
what we're
it was?
putting in the recycling bin actually getting recycled?
Yeah, so lots of unfolding to do there. I first want to say recycling is happening. It is not dead. I know there's a lot of really hyped up articles out there. It's like it's dead, nothing's happening here, and I think a lot of people just want us to kind of feel bad about this, and there's a few people out there that would love us to stop. But recycling is happening. Is it happening at the extreme that it was? No. But also, we were, in 1992, China was importing 72% of all of the plastic waste around the world. And in 2016, the U.S. was exporting 50% of its plastic to China. And so even though it was being exported or imported in that sense, just because something is recyclable doesn't mean that it's getting recycled. Same thing with compostable items. And so for us, we do a lot of wish cycling, and it's not all of our fault. I think within our cities are too general in what they tell us they can take because they think they need to keep it simple for us. They need to say, oh, all plastics 1 through 7, we'll take all of that. So then people get into this habit of saying, oh, it says 1 through 7, I'm going to put it all in the container. And then they start to think, well, my purchasing habits are all right because this form that the city just gave me said it's recyclable, when the city knows themselves that it probably isn't, that only a small percentage of that is probably going to have that value to be pushed back up the stream and be recycled. So there is a lack of transparency there. What one hauler, one city takes can change from another. The further inland you are, the more expensive it is to recycle. This Los Angeles, we're right beside the port. So we can travel up and down the country here and see if there's recycling facilities. But then there's other stuff that's international, and we can ship it off. Whereas, Idaho, Wisconsin may be like, we can't really do glass as well. We need to find localized infrastructure to be able to process this because it becomes way too expensive to recycle it, to transport it. But we're really at a momentous, amazing place in history right now because the old guard has to change. And recycling has never been the solution. It's part of the overall equation, but I'm really excited where we are. I'm all right that China has stopped doing this because we can no longer outsource our responsibility by dumping our waste in another country. We have to stop practicing what is called waste colonization. and we need to start looking upstream. We have to minimize our packaging, use recycled and recyclable content. We need to create durable and reusable products. We need to refrain from needless consumption, and then we need to push for policies and manufacturing.
We'll get her back on the line. Great conversation we're having with Jessica Aldridge from Adventures in Waste, and talking about what we should know and the transparency in which we need to have when it comes to recycling, and what we're recycling and what we're not recycling, and where it is actually going to, whether it's the landfill and or the recycling facility. So let's talk about the numbers. You mentioned that in the previous conversation there. Is a 3 on one piece of plastic the same equivalent of a 3 on another piece of plastic? And are all of those, do they all get recycled the same, or what do we need to know? Or do some of them not get recycled?
Yeah, actually, they're all different. So the numbers on the bottom of plastic is the resin identification code. And, way back when the plastics industry was said, you have to figure out how we can recycle this stuff better because you're making so much of it. And that was their solution, was to put a resin identification code on the bottom inside the chasing arrows. And so we have 1 through 7. If you see anything other than 1 through 7, there's no other numbers. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And all of them have different marketability within the system. So number 2, high-density polyethylene, has a lot of value, clear and color. Number 1, for the most part, it's the CRV, the cash redemption value, and it's plastic water bottles, things that drinking vessels is the number 1. It's actually harder to recycle a number 1 clamshell, like a to-go container. West of the Mississippi, number 1 thermoform, or those to-go containers, has really not ever had that great of value, but because it's number 1, everyone thinks it's a great plastic. They think all types of 1 can be recycled, whereas a lot of the times it's the other stuff, that molded stuff can't be. Lately, number 5, polypropylene, has become, the market value for that has extremely increased. So you see a lot of manufacturers moving over to using a number 5 polypropylene. But as a recycling facility, you have to have optical sorters to be able to pull the number 5 out. We used to have number 4, which is low-density polyethylene. It was usually a bale of film. It's like plastic bags and that sort of thing, and that doesn't really have as much value in the current market. And then there's a thing called the mixed plastic bale, which they would call it the 3 through 7 bale. And when they would sort that and sell it, the recycling facilities that were buying it were trying to get to certain items. We're trying to get to that number 5 polypropylene, and not all of that was being recycled of that 3 through 7. 3 is probably your dirtiest of all plastic. It's polyvinyl chloride. It's the most toxic. Number 6 is polystyrene. It's what foam, if you put an extruder on it, it's what foam is made out of, and is a known toxic chemical to humans, human carcinogen. And then the 7s is a mixed bag. So sometimes you look like a number 7 plastic, black plastic. If it used to be recycled from like electronic equipment, it can have flame retardants in it. It's a product called ABS. And that is a product that you don't want to have recycled into something that you're going to, like a spoon, a black spoon that you're going to be putting into your mouth or heating up with soup. So they're not all the same, they're not all equal, and they definitely don't go in order.
A lot of good information. Jessica, how can we find out more about you and the groups in which you're associated with?
Yes, so Adventures in Waste, you can find us on Instagram. We have a Facebook page. Our website is up and running, although it is still being developed. Some of our podcasts are up on the site there. And then we have a podcast that we're on called Eco Justice Radio, and that's on our independent radio station here, KPFK 90.7 FM. And you can find that on Apple Podcasts, iTunes, SoundCloud, and at SoCal350.org.
Well, we greatly appreciate you taking time, joining us on the program, and sharing a lot of the knowledge in which we need to be educated on for Holly, myself, and all of our listeners.
Well, thank you for having me on. This is so exciting. I love it.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jessica. For more information, please visit thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com.